very warm welcome to the Get Inspired show in association with Smile Radio. My name's Adele Clough and I'm a life coach inspiring everyone to live their happiest, most fulfilling life. Today's show is all about following your passion. Hello my loves, thank you so much for joining me. If you're listening to us live on Smile Radio, I hope your weekend is off to a super duper start. If it isn't, just stay tuned to me for the next hour and you'll be buzzing by the time we say goodbye. Today we're talking all about following your passion. At about 20 past, I'm going to be joined by Ben Haynes. He's a music producer based in the UK, and he left his job working in communications to follow his passion and become a full-time music producer. He started his own business and he made that change whilst having a young child. He now composes for the media, including adverts, and he also produces solo artists' music. So I'm really excited to hear all about his journey and how it can inspire us all. Before we dive into that though, I just want to touch on the fact that it's International Day of Peace today, also known as World Peace Day. And it's an opportunity for us all to think about how we can bring greater peace into our own life, our community, our country, and the world at large. If you could change just one thing in your life that would bring you greater peace on a day-to-day basis, what would it be? And as with all changes, just break it down into small steps. First of all, think about the thing that you'd like to change that would bring you greater peace, and then think about what the steps would be that would make that a reality. It isn't about the speed that you make the change and complete the change. It's about always moving towards your end goal. So I'm inviting you today to choose something in your life that would make a difference, that would bring you a sense of peace. It might be to do with the environment you live in. It might be to do with the people in your life. It might be to do with slowing down and calming down. It might just be about starting your days with a deep breath and noticing throughout the day when you feel rushed. What's really interesting about rushing is we don't achieve anything any faster. We just become frantic, and actually being slow and purposeful is more effective. So I'm putting that invitation out there for you. Also, I just wanted to share with you a story of something that happened to me during the week that really made me reflect on the fact that we are such powerful beings in terms of the energy within us, the energy we put out there into the world, and how often we're not thinking about the choice we have over our energy, whether we're going to choose to be calm, whether we're going to choose to be volatile and aggressive. We often act as though these are just things that happen to us, that we don't have control. And to some degree that's true. You know, nobody taught us at school that we can calm ourselves, we can self-soothe, we can live a more purposeful life where we're more in control. But I want to say to you, you absolutely can control your thoughts. And as I've said many times, it all starts with the thoughts. Thoughts create feelings. Feelings are not actually a real thing. It is all a thought. So an example of that, maybe you're a new listener and this is like, what is she talking about now? Who is this woman? What I mean is the feeling in our body of fear and excitement is exactly the same feeling. The sensation. It is the thoughts that make that feeling fear or excitement. There's no difference to the sensation. So if you invest in using your brain and taking control of it again, rather than letting it run amok, you can have a very different life experience. The story I wanted to share with you was, I was doing some shopping during the week. Not a very exciting story so far, but there's a purpose, there's a moral. So I was doing some shopping, had my little boy with me, and saw an incident that involved a car turning right and some people deciding to kind of run across the road, and just a little mistiming issue where when the driver looked they weren't running across the road, he checked the other way and then pulled out, and then they were. So, you know, there was a little light contact made by the woman that was running over the road, and her partner was with her. The driver was completely shocked and kind of jumped out and was like, is everyone okay? My goodness, you weren't there when I looked. And then I'd check the other way again just to be sure, and then you were there. He wasn't accusatory or anything. He was just clearly shocked, like, where did these people come from? Now, the partner of the woman, in that moment, his reaction was so interesting. First of all, just to say, I checked if the woman was all right and said to her, hey, just come sit down. There was just a bench just exactly where they were going to finish crossing the road. So I sat her there. But what was interesting about the guy was, in that moment, his energy, his thoughts and his focus were on being aggressive and using a full arsenal of swear words that he unleashed. We had the F-bomb, we had the C-bomb. Obviously, this was of interest to me because I've got a 6-year-old child. We might need to debrief on those words, I was thinking. But he was furious. This man was filled with fury. He looked like he was about to burst into flames, screaming at the driver, whose body language was very, I would say, submissive. There was no anger in the driver. He wasn't being hostile in any way. But this man just needed to lash out and put that aggression out there. Now, in all of this, he didn't check if the partner's okay. So if the anger was about, you could have hurt someone I love, he didn't check if that person that he loved was actually okay. All of the focus went into something that must have been inside him just coming out. So the reason I'm sharing this is it acted for me as a really powerful reminder that people forget they have a choice, or they're not interested maybe in what they're putting out there. Because in that moment, there was a lot of people shopping. Everyone hears all the swearing, they're shouting, including children. And that's the kind of energy that then goes with everyone who is, walking past, going about the day-to-day life. That's what's been put on them. But actually, who benefited even from that? Maybe the guy who just had all this stuff pent up in him, who released it, maybe he benefited, but nobody else did. And also, the woman, his partner, she didn't get any nurturing or love towards her. She just got to see a partner behaving like a moron. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's an attractive quality to some women to see in their partners. But to me, it just looked like someone who needed therapy urgently. So all these energies then just passed out, just sort of explodes into the immediate radius. And then everyone goes about their day with that. But wouldn't it have been interesting if that energy instead had been loving energy? Because if that man had said, oh my goodness, are you okay? And kind of ignored the driver was coming over anyway to check, is that woman okay? So what would have happened was the woman would have gone and sat down and her partner would have been checking in with her and the driver would. So all that would have been in that situation was like love and compassion, and everyone walking past would just have heard someone being concerned. It would just have been lovely. It would just have been an expression of how humans can be kind to one another and check in with one another. And everyone makes mistakes. So I just want to leave that with you. And the moral of the story is, what do you choose to do when you're in a situation that could be a conflict? Do you tap into compassion and peace? Or do you have so much negative emotion trapped inside that it'll come out and be unleashed unexpectedly? Because I'm asking you on International Day of Peace to choose the peaceful path. It's better for your body, it's better for your mind, and it's better for everyone around you. And with that said, I'm going to play us a song by Farah Siraj called What If? And then we'll get into the topic of following your passion.
I can look the other way, but you may not survive today. There's 1,000 miles between us anyway. I'm too far to hear you pray. But what if one day I would see you could have been me? Then we wouldn't be so far, and then I wouldn't stand for this war. But I'm safe and sound, I'm home at night, warm and dry, away from the fight. It's hard to imagine this could have been me. It's hard to imagine losing everything. have been me, then we wouldn't be so far. And then I wouldn't stand for this war. And what if one day they came for me? Or even worse, for my family. Then we wouldn't be so far. And then I wouldn't stand for this war. Then I wouldn't stand for this war.
Farah Siraj with What If, playing that on International Day of Peace. Sending peaceful vibes out to you wherever you are. Today on the Get Inspired show, we're talking about following your passion. For those of you who've been listening to my show since it started, which is, it's over a year now, you'll know that I often talk about what we learn as children, what we're taught, and how that informs us as adults. And for a lot of us, we have to work to undo some of the things we were taught that we believe to be fact. And that our upbringing often makes it tricky for us to identify what's a choice. And that for so many of us, the things we were taught and told in our formative years about how life is and how life should be take a little unravelling so we can arrive at a place where we have greater choices. And that's very true when we talk about following our passion, following what we're drawn to in life, finding the thing that makes us excited, that drives us to want to make a difference, or that deeply fulfills us and gives us satisfaction. Now, most of us were told as children that one of the most important components of adult life is to get a job, typically a 9-to-5 job, a full-time job, and that without that component in your adult life, you would not be successful. And for some of us, we might even have had a message that we would be a failure. Because if you think about it, one of the first things that we're asked is, what's your name and what do you do? Now, acceptable responses to what do you do not include, I embrace happiness, or I focus on gratitude. The question is asking you, what is your professional occupation? And that is a key to our identity. We don't even say, hi, my name's Adele and I work as a life coach. I say, my name's Adele and I am a life coach. That is like my identity. So when we think about breaking away from this idea of 9-to-5 and finding an alternative way to embrace our passion, it takes real guts, real gumption, real drive. And that's why I wanted to bring Ben Haynes on the show, because I knew that he had started off a more traditional career path. He'd worked in the NHS in the UK doing communications work, and then at some point he'd made a really major shift and gone completely self-employed, set up a business, and is thriving as a music producer. So, I'm a nosy person, I won't deny it. There you go, there's part of my identity. I'm a life coach with a side of nosy. I want to know, I'm always wanting to know how people achieve their wildest dreams, their audacious goals, because that's what my career's made up of, supporting people to make changes. So I'm always learning, and I want to hear people's stories. And also I want to share those stories with you, because yes, I can teach you and share with you various tools that are life coaching tools that are brilliant. However, sometimes it's so nice to hear another voice, a different experience, and to just hear a story unfold of how major changes happen. And it's not including kind of the coaching speech, it's just real life, raw and inspiring. So without further ado, I'm going to play a song that Ben Haynes produced. It's called Yola by Nadia Ray, and I really love it. It's really positive and upbeat. And while that's playing, I'll connect with Ben and let's get nosy together and see what we can find out from him.
Y-O-L-O, and we be chilling with this playing on the radio. Y-O-L-O, nothing gon' break us when we're living in this YOLO. Y-O-L-O, and we be chilling with this playing on the radio. Y-O-L-O, nothing gon' break us when we're living in this YOLO. just when we're living in this YOLO, YOLO, YOLO. Chillin' with this playing on the radio. We're living YOLO, we're living YOLO. Nothing to work 'cause when we're living in this YOLO. Right out of heavy tunes, a boat can never run. No time is wasted hanging out with you.
Hey, you're listening to the Get Inspired show in association with Smile Radio. So Ben, first of all, what do you describe yourself as?
Yeah, what I am is a music producer. That's what I describe myself as. And there's two sides to what I do. I do composition work for kind of small adverts and explainer videos and music libraries and things like that. And I also do production for solo artists and things like that. So if somebody's got a song and they want to record it, and maybe they only play acoustic guitar or they might not play any instruments at all, they come to me and we get all the tracks down and everything and record it, mix it, master it, so it's ready for them.
Oh, that sounds so cool. Now, here's a little tidbit of trivia. If people listen to my show regularly, they're already very familiar with your work, Ben, although they don't know it. But the show's jingle is one that you actually did.
Certainly is. Yes, I remember that.
You did me a little jingle for another project I was on, and then I loved it so much that it is now the show jingle, which we obviously play at the beginning, the end, and then it sort of wraps around adverts and things as well. It's rather lovely. So we're all familiar with your work, really, Ben. So what kind of, you were saying about like adverts and things, what kind of, can you name any that you've done? Can you kind of get us a bit excited about the types of stuff you've done?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing massively exciting. My stuff tends to be, for example, one of my most successful things is probably something that people won't even notice. It's one of those, you know, before you watch a program and there'll be a 5-second ident saying, carpet right, carpet, sponsor this program. I did a little ukulele thing for that, and it got played on, I think it was the Discovery Home and Garden channel or something like that. And that was quite successful in terms of you get royalties when things are played on TV. So I did quite well out of that. But no, I mean, I've not been doing like the John Lewis advert or anything like that, the Christmas one. It's just bits and bobs as and when.
And are you open to doing the John Lewis one in the future? Might that be what the future holds?
If Mr. John Lewis is listening to this show, then let's talk.
Love it. So we've done Carpet Right, and you've worked with musicians as well.
Yeah, I've worked with musicians. I mean, in terms of composition, I just going back to that, I have done work for Microsoft, the NHS. I've done work for Disney. It's just that it's hard to remember because jobs come and go so quickly. You can't remember what you. If I sat down and looked through my computer, I'm sure I could kind of give you a better explanation. But there's a lot out there. And then in terms of production, there's I've had some brilliant people come through the door. I've also had some not so brilliant people come through the door, but you know, you've got to pay the bills and all that.
Oh yes.
But I mean, I've had people like, you know, Kezia Gill. She's a country singer who's doing exceptionally well in country circles at the moment. She's winning a ton of awards and she's on the up. I did a track that was very, very nearly the UK's Eurovision entry a couple of years ago.
Oh, Ben, I love the Eurovision. I'd have like spontaneous. Yeah. Oh my goodness. If that had happened, I don't know what would have happened. I'd have spontaneously combusted. I'm obsessed with Eurovision.
I didn't know that.
Silly and ridiculous and fun. And I'm all for the fun and silliness where you can find it. Yeah.
Hey, well, I'll tell you two things about Eurovision. One is this track got it was down to the final 6 to represent the UK a couple of years ago, and they had a little TV show on BBC Two where they kind of, you know, battered the tracks out X Factor style. And there was a guy called Carl Lund, and he did a song called Miracle, and I produced that.
Oh wow!
And then the other thing is, you'll find this more impressive. I was going to be a judge for the UK of Eurovision last year. They contacted me and asked to be a judge. I would have had 10% of the entire UK vote.
What happened? It didn't happen? I need to know the story, the backstory. So they contacted you. Did you say yes? Did you say no?
I did say yes. Unfortunately, my mum got ill and died.
Oh,
literally supposed to be happening. So I couldn't. I mean, it was, I still wanted to do it. And even when my mum was in hospital, I was messaging them saying, I think I'll be okay to do it. But then they emailed back and said, look, we've got a duty of care to, we can't have you on the show if there's any chance that you can't make it. And also you're probably not going to be in the right frame of mind. So in the end, it didn't go ahead. But that's fine. I was happy to be asked. I'm not a massive Eurovision fan like yourself. So I didn't really feel qualified to be doing it. But yeah, no, it was nice to be asked.
Yeah, and can I just say, I am so sorry to hear about your mum. What an awful thing to go through. There's some exciting trivia for me about Eurovision. So now I'm going to go back in time to what happened for you career-wise before you arrived at the place you're at now, where you've randomly got people wanting you to be a judge on the Eurovision. What happened before that? What was your career path?
I grew up always wanting to be a musician, and I was always in bands and I was always doing music stuff. I never had any other hobbies. And after university, I went into a number of jobs and then fell into a job at the NHS in communications. So I was writing press releases and I was taking media inquiries and I was writing the stuff for the website for the Derby City, as it was then, Primary Care Trust. It's all changed now. And it was an okay job. I didn't mind it as jobs go. It was interesting in places, but it was kind of frustrating because I knew that music was what I always wanted to do. And whilst I was doing that job, in the background, I was starting to kind of put this business together in just a sort of a background kind of way. I'd have friends over, I'd record their stuff. And right from the very start, I charged them, which sounds a bit weird, but I charged my friends from the start because A, I wanted to think like a business, and B, I wanted them to know that what I was doing was quality. It wasn't just something on the side.
Just to pick up on that, I think that is really, really important. And it's certainly something I've talked about before on the show. I think like money is one of the ways that we can value ourselves, what we're paid. And yeah, good on you. Absolutely. That's my passion. That's my skill. And yeah, and it takes your time, your energy, and your skill. So good on you. Yes. So you were doing it sort of on the side.
And then I think a couple of things happened. One was that my daughter was born in 2009. And then from having kind of two big things that take up your time, which is work and music, I now have three things. And it felt like one thing had to give. I was knackered. I was exhausted. I couldn't give up music, but I wanted to be a good dad, and obviously I had to go to work. And then what happened then was the recession that we had around sort of 2000, 2007, 2008, that hit the NHS 2 years later than everything else. It hits public services later. So around 2010, early 2011, we had a big meeting, and we were asked, does anyone want to take voluntary redundancy? And it was, I won't lie, it was a reasonable payoff, enough for me to take a few months and set up my own business. So bear in mind that my daughter was probably only 1 or 2 years old at the time. We'd just bought a house. It was tricky. And I had to go to my wife and say, well, I'd quite like to quit my steady job at the NHS, and start this thing out full time. And, she was a bit unsure at first, but I remember being at work and I got a text from her and she said, you only live once, you've got a passion, let's go for it. And that was the best text I've ever received, knowing that Sarah was on board. So what I decided then was, I said to her, look, I'm not going to let the family go hungry. I'll take a certain amount of time off to try this, and I'll give it everything I've got. And if it doesn't work, then at least I've tried. And I'll go and get another job, in an office, data input, whatever. But I need to at least try this. So that's what I did, really. It was, literally, I finished on a Friday, and on the Monday, I was getting my website ready. I was starting to make contacts. And the first year or two, I was kind of working 12-hour days to try and get the business up and running. And amazingly, it worked.
So at this point, how old were you?
I was in my mid-30s. I think I was maybe 34, perhaps. So I was for music, I was coming at it late, because I think a lot of people go into it when they're sort of 20 or kind of early 20s.
And what was your family's reaction, friends' reaction? Did you have support around you, or was there any nervousness? What was the general vibe in your support network?
It was varied. My dad is very, very old school, and he was always of the impression that if you've got a job, why leave it? And
Mm.
to be fair, he never had a passion. So I mean, I said I'm quitting my job to do music, and he said, "Why? You've got a job." He literally couldn't get his head around it. Whereas my mum was very supportive, and my dad now is very, very interested in what I do. And my friends were supportive. I don't know if they thought it would take off or not, because music is a very, very, very difficult thing to get into. And and for the past 15 years, there's been this huge thing that you can't make a living from music. And it's sort of drilled into all musicians now. And I remember going onto a website forum for a very popular music production website forum, a few months before I took the redundancy. And I said to them, "This is what I'm thinking of doing. I'm thinking of taking the redundancy. It'll time me over months. I'm going to do this and this and this." And I put the post up there, and I came back a day later, and there was 4 pages of comments, and every single one of them said, "Don't do it. You're crazy. Don't do it."
Wow. So basically, a lot of fear, a lot of
Yeah,
negativity on
absolutely.
mass.
And everyone was like, "You can't make money from music. Your wife will leave you. You'll end up living in a gutter." And all this. Like one guy even private messaged me his number and said, "Please call me now. I need to speak to you to get you out of this mindset." And I thought, well, okay, well, there's 2 types of people here. I think most of the people on this forum don't have the gumption to do this themselves, or are scared of doing it themselves. And the other people are already doing it and don't want any competition. So I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. And if I have a quality, it's absolute sheer bloody minded optimism, and trying things that everyone else says can't work. I'm like, well, I'm going to try it then. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And I think that's why it's worked for me, just because I've had enough belief. I think there are better musicians than me that I know, that could do a better job. But if you don't have the belief and the drive, then you'll just end up working 9 to 5.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you did get loads of negativity thrown at you. And I wonder whether that actually had a positive effect on you. People go, "No, you can't do it. I need to like speak to you one to one and like tell you how ridiculous it is and save you from this." I almost wonder whether that pushed you more to think, "Oh, come on now. People do it and succeed, and I'm in that camp."
Absolutely, yeah. And a couple of times since the business has taken off, I've thought of going back to the forum and going, well, this is me, 9 years on or whatever. But I thought that would be a recipe for disaster, really. And I certainly don't like to gloat, which it will come across as. I've also got people that I know. I'm friends with a guy who's a university lecturer, and he thinks that music should be free, and that people that are musicians should not be paid. And he's completely honest about it. He said, music should be a joy. You have fun making it, therefore why should you be paid? And he said, music should be like folk music. It should be passed on down the generations. And I said, well, you're a college professor. Knowledge should be passed on down the generations. You could say the same thing for anything. So I know that there are people that think that the music should be free, and I'm not one of those. And
Mm.
I get a lot of emails even now, people saying, can you do this thing for credits, please? Or an artist will email me and say, I've got some tracks I need producing. I can't afford to pay you, but when I'm famous, you can take 2%, which that's very nice of you, but isn't going to pay the bills right now.
But this happens in a lot of areas of work, I think. I mean, yeah, I get approached to do free things, and there's only, I still have to pay my bills. I can't do everything for free. I'll contribute to some articles in the press, but I can't do all of them because I'd just be sat at my computer all day contributing to articles on how to change your life, and nobody's going to pay me. So I'm completely
That's
with you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think it's it's often things that are creative or have a feel of luxury about them. So, you know, how to change your life, people will be like, oh, that's advice, and advice must be free. You know what I mean? Or, you know, it's crazy. You know, I know artists and animators and people like that. And, you know, an animation takes weeks, months to do. But people see a 2-minute animation and they go, well, probably took 2 minutes to make, you know.
Yeah. But they think it happened over a cup of tea, just someone just dabbling with one hand and a brew in the other. But really, and also I think one thing it doesn't take into account in that attitude is how long someone has spent fine tuning their skill. And that might have involved a monetary investment, in your case, in instruments, in the technology needed. But also it can involve paying for training, which involves financial money, but also the investment of time and energy and clearing your schedule. There's a backstory to anyone who's got a wonderful skill, be it creative or otherwise, that they have made a decision to either train in it or self-teach. And there's usually purchases that have gone with it to enable you to do your work to a high standard. So yeah, freebies, no. Were there any fears that you faced, any concerns? Was there any points in this where you thought, oh, no, or I shouldn't? Because what I heard you say was you had like a backup plan. I'll do this for a finite amount of time. I'm going to give it my all. This is my audacious goal. And if for some reason it doesn't go to plan, then my plan B is I'll go and do data inputting. But so basically, I'm hearing you already had something in your mind that could maybe allay any fears. Is that how it was?
No. That was no, not at all. In fact, that was when I left the NHS. There was someone else that got in touch because I was reasonably good at communications, and they said, "Do you want a bit of communications work 2 days a week just while you get your business taken off?" I said, "Thank you, but no," because I said I need the fear. I need to not have any other option. I need to go at this with everything. Otherwise, I'm just not. I'll just ended up doing communications again. You know. So no, actually, I mean, when I say about the data input, that was something that I said to my wife to kind of, you know, ensure that there was some kind of plan if it didn't take off. But in my head, it was always going to, you know, and there was no plan B ever. And, you know, it was either kind of do or die, really.
I love it. That's just like, whoa, flying by the seat of your pants, just going for it. And it sounds to me like you just knew it was gonna take off and it was gonna be okay. It just sounds like that's your mindset was, I am doing this. I've wanted this. This is what I've always loved and I'm in it.
Exactly. I mean, it was stupid, really, what I was thinking. 'Cause I tried not to think about the money side of it. You know, I try not to think about things because if you think about things and the logistics, then it kind of sends you bonkers. And I remember the one thing I thought before I started this business was to make what I made in the NHS, I need to earn £100 a day. That terrified me. I was like, how am I going to earn £100 a day every day, like forever? So I just didn't think about it anymore. I just went, right, I'm not thinking about that. I'm going to just do it and get started and see what happens, you know. I was lucky in that we'd been given a decent payoff when I left my job, and also that at the time my wife had, you know, a fairly good job as well. So that tided me over for a few months. So I really was given the opportunity to really go at it, you know, and I'm fully aware that lots of people won't be in that situation. But if there's anything I would say, it's that I feel that in your lifetime you'll get one brilliant opportunity to do something, you know, where the doors open and the stars align, and you've got to do it, because if you don't take that chance, then you'll forever be regretting it, and that there's no other opportunities, you know.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. If you'd not got that little redundancy offer, do you think you'd have gone for it anyway? Were you starting to move? Were you getting like, I need to do it, I need to do it?
I'd like to think so. I was starting to think about it, and like I say, I was doing work kind of on the side, part time. I just don't know. I don't know really. It's really hard to say. But I like to think eventually what I might have done would be to maybe have saved up some money and done it that way. You know, So I might have come to it even later, sort of late 30s or something. But I think eventually I would have had to have got out of the job I was doing and got into this, you know.
So rewinding back, why do you think, so you went to university, why do you think you didn't go straight into music? What made you start doing other work?
There was two things really. One was that after I was at university, I was always in bands at university, and when you're in bands, you have this kind of slightly deluded belief that your band is the best band on earth, and I continued to be in bands, and none of them worked for various reasons, but that's kind of what I was doing, kind of after university. But the other thing at the time, studio equipment was really expensive. Now, I'd finished university in 2000, the year 2000, and then to get a decent studio setup would have been about £10,000 and maybe more, you know, for all the software, the computers, the hardware, and plus I was still slightly immature at that age. You know, I was 22. It wouldn't have worked for me if I'd have done it then.
Mm.
Um, and also other things like, you know, I get quite a lot of my work through the internet. Well, in the year 2000, the internet was still pretty new, and there weren't, I don't think, as many opportunities. So ultimately, the reason, in answering your question, I didn't have the money to start it up,
Mhm.
and I didn't have the personal skills really to go about doing it.
I wonder as well whether one of the pushes was what happened for you when you became a dad for the first time? How did that change your perspective on life? Did it change your perspective, your priorities?
It did, because as I think I mentioned earlier, I realized that there were three big things in my life. You know, my daughter, and then my work, which wasn't a big thing, but it took up a lot of time, and music. And I thought something's got to give, because I was still recording friends' albums with a baby daughter and going to work, and I was blooming knackered, you know.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, another good thing for me when I wanted to take voluntary redundancy, and I sold it to my wife like this, is if I'm working from home, which I still do to this day, I can be around more. You know, I can be more of a hands-on dad. I can do, you know, so I ended up doing a lot of the nursery pickups and quite a lot of the school pickups, and I was able to do that. And you know, not many people can, you know, and I feel really lucky that I've been able to be there through summer holidays and things like that. And we haven't had to put them into after school clubs and things like that. Every day I think that I'm lucky because of that, you know.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think that is one of the great joys of self-employment. I'm self-employed too, and being able to structure it around your family is like such a blessing. Absolutely. I echo that. So, bringing it to the present day, what I want to know is what are you most proud of?
I think overall I'm most proud that I'm still doing this for a living, and it doesn't seem like it's stopping at any time soon. So that's the main thing I'm proud of. I'm proud of the I'm proud of the fact that people keep coming back to me. That I've got quite a good reputation now. I'm proud of a lot of the music that I've made, um, and that's it really. I mean, you know, it's amazing when you go to see an artist that you've worked with, and they're doing a gig or something, and then at the end of a song they all say, "Oh, by the way, there's Ben over there who does all my production work," and everyone gives you a round of applause. You know, I still don't know how to act when people do that. I think I just go bright red and kind of do a half-hearted wave. But you know, that's really nice. You know, when people do that, or when people write you a nice testimonial. You know,
Yeah.
um, I remember the exact point where I realised that production work was exactly what I wanted to do, and I was still in my job at this point, and it was before my daughter was born. And I'd been working with two artists who both knew each other, and they both came round. I'd just finished both their EPs, and we sat in the studio in my old house, which was a spare bedroom, and we turned the lights off and turned the lava lamp on, and we just sat in the dark and listened to both their EPs. And at the end, they both gave me a bottle of whiskey, and I was like, "This job is awesome. This job is way better than the NHS. I need to do this time, So, yeah, that was certainly the very point where I was like, this has got to happen now.
So what would you, I can probably guess what you're going to say, but what would your message be to anyone who's got a passion, who would really love to take the leap and maybe leave behind a different day job and go for it?
Yeah.
What would your message be to them?
If there's an opportunity to do it, then do it. Obviously, you can't rush into these things like if there's no backup. Like I say, I was very lucky that I had a bit of money from the redundancy to if you get an opportunity like that, then do it. If you win the lottery or something, do it. Or if God forbid a relative dies and leaves you some money, then use it to follow your dreams. And I wouldn't change what I'm doing now for anything. And sure, there are bad days, and there's days when you don't feel like being creative, which there's bound to be, because you can't work however many days it is that you actually work a year and be on it every single day. But the rewards are 100 times better than any than probably what anyone's doing at the moment. So I would advise, if you can see the doorway that leads to where you want to be, then and it's feasible, then do it. And don't think too much about it, because I think thinking can sometimes be the enemy of kind of procrastination, isn't it? It can be the enemy of actually getting things done.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoa. So now tell me where you're at. Have you got a studio at home, and is your family now bigger than one child? Where are you at now?
Yes. So I started off in a studio in my bedroom in my old house. And then when we moved to the current house, I put the studio up in the attic, which was quite nice. It had a nice sound in there. The only problem was that anyone above 6'1" had to stoop a little bit. So it wasn't ideal. It's fine for me. I'm only 5'7", so we're good there. And then what happened then was we had another child. So we had a son, Ed, who's now 5. And it became kind of impractical for me to be recording in the house with babies crying downstairs or trying to keep it quiet at night and stuff. So I saved up some money and we built a purpose-built studio in the garden. So there was a massive big woodshed. We demolished the woodshed and built this studio, which is 6 meters by 3.5 meters. And it's soundproofed, and it's a lovely kind of creative environment. We've got a couple of settees, people can write. We've got a ton of instruments. We've got drums. We've got guitars, effects pedals, and it's and I keep a Polaroids on the wall of everyone who's been here. So it's a great little space, and that's what I do at the moment, and couldn't be happier. I'm changing the business to go more into composition and maybe leave some of the production stuff behind a little, just because I get more out of the composition side of things, but we'll see.
Oh, well, hugest congratulations to you. How long have you actually been self-employed, running your own business now then?
It's been 8 years. I realised the other day it was August 2011, 5th of August 2011 that I had my last day at work, and then on the 8th of August I was in the studio getting things on. And that first year, I really went out of my way to get things done. For example, there are a lot of what we call bedroom producers, who are people who kind of do it part time out of their bedroom on a computer, and I didn't want to be kind of roped in with those. So I immediately got a logo designed. So I have an actual logo, and I got a really good quality website done. So people would take me seriously as a business rather than thinking I'm just some 19-year-old kid with a laptop. So it was things like that, and it was things like going on courses. I went on a couple of courses in Derby. One was called Making Creativity Pay, which was absolutely invaluable, because I think quite often creative people are not good at the business side of things.
That's so true, Ben, because
absolutely.
It's kind of using different sides of your brain. So yes. Absolutely,
yeah, absolutely. And it was an amazing course that I went on, and I learned, I think if I hadn't have gone on that course, then maybe it might not have worked for me, because I learned a few things that I put into practice even now. And also I learned how to get my website up at the top of Google. So now when you type music producer UK into Google, I'm like seconds person down, to this very day, which is great. And again, it's invaluable because I get queries from um, all over the UK, but also beyond. If someone, I've worked with people in Norway, in America, in Germany, in Australia. I'm working with someone in Australia at the moment, and they've just found me through Google. And the other thing that I think is pretty good is word of mouth, which people that I've worked with who are friends of someone else that I've worked with, who are friends of someone else I've worked with, and so on. There's like a chain of people where it's been word of mouth, which has been great.
Absolutely, because the thing is, if you're going to invest in something, if someone you trust can say, this guy's good, he knows what he's doing, it'll be brilliant at the end, you're like, yes. Word of mouth, powerful.
Absolutely. Can I just go back to one thing you asked? When you said, what's the proudest thing?
Yes.
Actually, I do have a thing. Last year, or actually 2017, I did some work on a musical about World War One that was based in Shrewsbury. And in February last year, I went to go and see this musical, which was in this huge theatre in Shrewsbury. And I'd done all the music for it. And in particular, I'd written the final song of the show, which everyone was getting really quite excited about. The cast and the crew were really excited about this song. And it was a big kind of emotional, stately song about the war. And I'm actually getting goosebumps talking about it now. But this whole play was phenomenal. And it really caught you up in it. And at the end, they played the song. And I was right at the front, and I looked around me, and literally the whole place was just in tears while they were singing this song. And then at the end of this song, it had this massive ending, and just everyone stood up and clapped. And I remember looking around, and it was like, in a film where everything's in slow motion, it was like that. I was just looking around and going, my God, my song did that.
Ben, that's so beautiful.
That was honestly, that was one of the most amazing things. And I was sort of in shock for about a day afterwards. I was like, that is, because I don't do much of that sort of thing, music for stage or music for theatre. But that was an unbelievable. And so I still say to people even now, that was probably my favourite moment in music ever.
Wow. Yeah. What was it called? What was the play called?
Yes, the play was called Poppy Fields, and it was on in Shrewsbury in February 2018 and also in September 2018. It's actually going to be on in Birmingham, I think in November this year. So I may go along and see that as well. But yeah, that first time, just seeing the audience reaction was just incredible.
Oh, that's just magical. I think that's a moment you won't ever forget.
That's it, yeah, and it's like I say, it gives me goosebumps even now just thinking about it, and that kind of thing, you could, you can't really ask for more, when you've done a job for someone, and obviously you've been paid for it as well, because that's all part of it. But then you go and see it come to its fruition, and it having that amount of impact on. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know that obviously the play was incredible, and that would have built up the emotions with people. But then my song just came along and just popped them over the head with the tear gun,
Oh, gorgeous. What I'm thinking is people listening might very well like to find out a little bit more about your work and connect with you. What is the easiest way that people can connect with you? Is it through your website or social media?
Yeah, basically I've got a website which is www.haynesmusic.com, and that's Haynes as in the manual, so HAYNES music.com. You can see kind of what I'm up to there and get in touch. I do have a Facebook page, although I don't update it as much as I used to, and that's just facebook.com/Haynes Music Productions. So yeah, that's it. I don't really do much other social media, because I found things like Twitter a bit of a waste of time personally. But yeah, I'm always happy to chat, and if people want to know more or ask more questions or whatever, I'm more than happy to chat.
Oh, you have been a superstar. I feel inspired myself. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you ongoing success with all that you're doing.
Thanks, Adele. You too.
Long days are lasting, my mind gets to wandering. Daydreams are wasting my time, just thinking of you. Heartbeat racing, just the thought of you makes my body react. Heart thrill seeking, I need to get to see you tonight. And nothing beats this feeling. You gotta pull me from the ceiling. It feels like I'm dreaming. No one looks at me like you. Knows exactly what I'm thinking like you do. The way you stare, your eyes, they look right through me. Deep into my soul, doesn't matter what I do. When I'm with you, I lose all control. Life just feels better when it's only me and you here. Nothing else matters. It's like you make everything else disappear. I need my fix. You're like a drug I can't get enough of. And just one kiss takes me higher than I ever thought I could be. And nothing beats this feeling. You gotta pull me from the ceiling. It feels like I'm dreaming. No one looks at me like you. Knows exactly what I'm thinking like you do. The way you stare, your eyes, they look right through me. Deep into my soul, doesn't matter what I do. No one looks at me like you. Knows exactly what I'm thinking like you do. The way you stare, your eyes, they look right through me. Deep into my soul, doesn't matter what I do. When I'm with you, I lose all control.
That was Control by Kezia Gill. What an absolutely gorgeous song. It was produced by today's guest, who was Ben Haynes. A big thank you to Ben. We're almost at the end of our time together. Next time I'll be joined by Jenny Edge. She gave up the comforts of living in a traditional home setting to embark on van life. Until the next show, if you'd like to catch up on any of the shows you've missed, I've started a YouTube channel. Thank you to all those who asked me to do it. I do need to move with the times, don't I? My YouTube channel name is Adele Clough Coaching, and you'll see that I'm uploading all my previous Get Inspired shows for you there. If you visit my YouTube channel, please can you hit the subscribe button, and please can you give a video a like. It'll really help me get the word out there about what I'm doing. Thank you so much. I hope you have a super duper week ahead, and I look forward to connecting with you next time. In the meantime, please do remember that you're precious. There is only one of you. So please do take good care.